On this episode of Left Off the Map, Linton Tapp and Stuart McSwain will finish their awesome expedition around King Island, learning a little bit about crayfishing. After that, I will be on the east coast of Tasmania, making my version of a classic Mexican dish. But first, we start the episode at the World Heritage listed Tarkine Rainforest, making a gourmet mac and cheese. I'm making a version of macaroni and cheese, but I'm using penne because it's my favourite pasta. I actually think penne is a better pasta for macaroni and cheese because I've cooked this off already. It's got the little grooves on the outside, the penne rigate, so it sticks to it better. So what I've done is par-cooked some penne in probably 2 minutes under what's recommended on the packet. So this is, on this pack, I think it's about 8 minutes, so I've cooked it for about 6. And then drained it and left about 2 or 3 tablespoons of the cooking water in the pasta because the starch on that cooking water is going to help thicken emulsify and thicken our cheese and wine mixture. So this is a fondue with pasta in it. Is the best way to describe it. So I'll put a little bit of oil in my wok and I can pop that on now. In with that, I've got some speck. So just some really cubed, sort of chunky pieces of speck, about a 1 centimetre dice. Pop that in. And then I want a good amount of garlic in there as well. So 2 cloves of garlic, unless you've got a 1 clove of garlic, which is that big, which I'm going to thinly slice. And pop that in. And then thyme, lots and lots and lots of thyme, which again, I'll just roughly chop. Probably 15 sprigs of thyme. Pop that in. Give that a mix. I'm just trying to get some colour on my speck now. Once I've got some colour on that, I'll pop in a big, it's probably 2 tablespoons of Dijonnaise. So Dijon and mayonnaise mixed together, Dijonnaise. We'll pop that in about 2 tablespoons worth. And then some paprika, some smoked paprika, we'll pop that in as well. Once we've got some colour on our speck, I'll cook that out a little bit and then I'm going to deglaze with some wine, which I've poured. Make sure you leave a little bit of wine left to have with this, again, help cut through the richness of it. So I've got a dry white wine, about 150 mils. So I've added in my wine and reduced it down by probably 1/3, trying to make sure I can balance the richness and the creaminess of the dish with something like creme fraiche, which has got that slight acidity to it. So about 100 to 150 mils of cream, to the same of the creme fraiche. So about 150 mils of creme fraiche. Stir those 2 together, and then it's time for the cheese. Now, I've picked my 3 favourite cheeses, but you can do the same. So my 3 favourite cheeses are the jalapeno. So this is a jalapeno Havarti. It's a really good melting cheese, but it's got a nice amount of heat from the jalapenos. Then a pecorino and a gruyere are my 3 favourites. This is a cracked pepper as well, which it's cracked pepper Havarti. Might be a cracked pepper cheddar, which would be really good as well because you start to get that carbonara sort of flavour to it. So stir that in, and now it's cheese time. So you want about 100 grams of each of the cheeses as well. 300 grams, 350 grams of cheese all up. If you go with 1 cheese, then it's a lot of that 1 cheese. If you spread it over 3, or you can spread it over 4 if you want, it's completely up to you. So our pecorino first. So the pecorino is going to be really sharp and really salty. The Havarti is going to give me a nice amount of creaminess and a little bit of heat from the jalapeno that's in it. And then the gruyere is that funky flavour that you get from cheese. So I'm getting the best of all the worlds. And Havarti is a really soft cheese, so I'm not going to grate that. I'll just cut it into some little cubes, and it will, as I said, it's a really good melting cheese, so it will melt in nicely. And then my pasta is going to go in. So the pasta and pasta water that I've got left over will then go in, and we'll mix all that together. I've got a couple of minutes now just to let those cheeses melt. Then my pasta will go in with my pasta water. And then I just want to check for seasoning. So salt, lemon juice, my cracked pepper would be really nice if you had cracked pepper, as I said. And then it's ready to go. So I've just let the heat get back into that wok so that the starch that's in our pasta water can help thicken our cheese sauce. And it's done its job. So, this is just, I mean, it is definitely a sometimes food. It's not something that you're going to eat all the time. But I'm out here in the Tarkine. I'm probably going to be doing a little bit of bushwalking and being quite active while I'm out here. So, yeah, I'm going to need the extra calories. That's what I'm telling myself anyway. I'll put some lemon juice on there, but a few little thyme sprigs just to reinforce that thyme flavour over the top. The delicate ones, so the ones that you can still eat without having to chop them up or cook them, so the young thyme sprigs on top. And then, why not? Why not? Just a little bit of extra cheese on top. That's it, done. My penne and cheese, or my take on macaroni and cheese. It is, it's a bit addictive, to be honest with you, and you probably will need, even though there is carbohydrate in there in the pasta, some sort of bread of some kind to sort of soak up that cheese, or that fondue sauce would be really nice, and you'll definitely need a glass of that to go with it. Now let's head back to King Island for Linton Tap and Stuart McSwain's last hurrah. The Curry Boathouse sits next to the wharf in Curry Harbour. It was created by local artist Caroline Kinnamonth and her friend Jeff Dodge, and officially opened by Dick Smith in 1990. It's now a celebrated place that the locals call the restaurant with no food. It's open 24 hours a day. You bring your own food, drink and friends, and you can stay as long as you like while watching the local fishermen bring in their catch. All that's asked is you give a donation and clean up after yourselves. If you'd like a memento, you can buy one of Caroline's artworks on display and pop some money in the honesty box. Linton is spending a couple of hours here while sharing stories with some travellers before heading over to the wharf to chat to the crayfishermen.
Well, the age-old saying remains true. Listen to the locals wherever you're travelling. The boathouse was everything you could possibly want as a traveller. I came down here, met some like-minded travellers, enjoyed a terrific lunch with local produce, beautiful wine, and took in the scenery. I'm just going to wait for the weather to clear up a bit because I've just spotted the famous Curry Harbour pier behind me. I'm going to take a walk over there and see if I can chat to a local fisherman about the world-famous King Island craze. Geez, this looks like back-breaking work, Paul.
It can be.
I'm sure you've stacked a few of those in your time.
I have. How you going?
Good, mate, good. Now, here you're the bloke to talk to about fresh seafood.
Oh, look, I've caught a bit in my time.
Caught a bit in your time?
Yeah.
So we're at Curry Harbour right now, one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen.
This is Curry Harbour, yes.
You wouldn't get tired of seeing this day in, day out, would you?
You know, look, it's a pretty nice place and it's forever changing. Different light, different winds, different seas. It is a pretty unique, special place.
So you're leading the way here on this little island in the Bass Strait. You're sort of punching well above your weight for...
We are. I suppose it's a good spot. Look, we've got this sort of seas and, we've a few fortunate things. We're close to Melbourne, I think, too, which helps us in a big way.
So what would you tell anyone looking for a weekend trip to King Island? What are the hot tips from you? Because you're You're born and raised in King Island, I assume?
Yeah. Look, try the beef, try the crayfish, and definitely the cheese, and well, you pretty much can't go wrong.
Sounds pretty good to me, doesn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Well, Paul, I'm going to keep exploring this amazing town of Curry, keep trying the incredible food, but thank you so much for
You're
having
welcome.
a chat with
All
me
the
today.
best. Enjoy your stay.
And I hope I can track down one of those amazing King Island crayfish.
I'm sure you will.
After a long day of golf, cheese and socialising, Linton heads to Porky's Beach Retreat. Overlooking the Southern Ocean, the retreat features an outdoor red cedar spa, a bespoke barrel sauna, and the only fireplace of its kind in Australia. Porky's Beach Retreat offers in-house dining for its guests, catered by Chef Rob, who is preparing a platter of produce for Linton and Stuart.
Rob, this already smells fantastic, mate. Look at the spread here. Now, local King Island produce.
It is, yes, all local.
What are you planning on cooking to this afternoon? Because this isn't just any type of spread. This is, like I can see King Island cheese. I recognise a few of them from earlier today. The cured meats here.
Yes, all locally processed. Smoked wallaby, a couple different flavoured salamis.
Absolutely delicious. This is the thing, though, that caught my eye, and I'm sure everyone else is looking at home, is the crayfish. Now, I went to Curry Harbour earlier today and talked to a local fisherman, and he said the King Island crayfish are some of the best in the world for so many reasons, but looking up close and personal to one of these, you can see why it's a spectacular crayfish. What should you be looking for when you get a crayfish at home if someone's walking up to their fishmonger?
Ideally, here, we basically have the luxury of picking them up live, straight from the tanks, ready to go.
You must get spoilt for choice when you've got seafood that fresh here.
Yes.
Spoilt for choice. I tell you what, I've never seen accommodation quite like this. And that's why I'm going to keep exploring it. There's a sauna outside, there's a spa bath, and of course, the view.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go enjoy a bit of that while you get this prepared, because I cannot wait to share this with Stuart. It's some of the best produce I've ever seen.
Excellent.
Welcome, Stuart.
How good's this?
How good is this? I think this sums up our day.
Yeah, definitely.
If we didn't have enough food after this, we definitely would have. And another tribute to King Island. So Rob's just been in here slaving in the kitchen. He's gone now, but crayfish he got for us this morning, straight out of the waters behind us. Like, you can't get much better than that.
Yeah, definitely. After the day we've had, we've got all the best produce here. I think, yeah, there's no better way to cap off.
Did you have a favourite part of the day?
Probably getting out on the Cape Wicken golf course. I think I'd seen it before, but never played on it. And yeah, to play on a world-class facility like that was pretty special.
I loved the golf, don't get me wrong, but the cheese, come on, King Island dairy. Like, you can see why you see that around the world in any good deli.
Yeah, I think the amount you hear about it, you could say it's overrated, but I don't think there's any better in Australia. I don't know if there's any better in the world. So yeah, it was definitely a highlight of the day as well.
Well, Stuart, thank you for a spectacular day. It truly has to be seen to be believed. Cheers, mate.
Thanks for having me.
Now let's enjoy some of this.
Not a bad way to finish a trip to King Island. But now it's time to head back to the east coast of Tasmania and finish the episode with a Mexican twist. Today is a happy day for Ben. I have a combination of almost all the things I love in my life. Tasmania, the east coast of Tasmania in particular, which is where we are today. Staying at Avalon, which is probably my top 3 places to stay in the whole entire world. Mexican food, which I love, and lobster or crayfish, which I love. So almost all the things I love are here. Not saying that I don't love you guys' crew, but my family. It's the only thing that I'm missing today. So, everyone knows how to make guacamole. I'm going to show you how to make a guacamole, or my favourite guacamole. I'm going to add some crayfish to it. So a luxurious guacamole, a crayfish guac. First thing I need to do is cook my crayfish. So I've got one crayfish tail, one small crayfish tail there, which I've just chopped into small pieces. A little bit of oil in our pan, a little pinch of salt. Once that gets up to heat, I'm going to throw that lobster tail in there and just cook it just through. It'll only take about 45 seconds to 60 seconds. I'm going to take it out and let it cool on the board, and I'm going to roughly chop it to go through my guacamole. So now onto the guac. Avocado. So run your knife one way, then the other way. That way you don't end up with green all over your fingers and all messy, and you can control your dice. All right, we've got some smoking oil there. Crayfish in. You want to hear that sizzle straight away. I'm not adding anything to this. I just want the flavour of the crayfish to transfer over to the guacamole. 10 more seconds. That's done. Power off. Pop that back in the bowl it came in. The residual heat in there. We'll just gently cook it the rest of the way through. My other half of my avo. Put that in. Then avocados, as soon as you get them in, get some acid on them, so some citrus. So I'm going to use the juice of 1 lime and the juice of half a lemon, and that'll stop it going brown. Half a lemon, same thing. Then I don't want this to be too, I want it to have some texture, so I don't want to mush it up too much. So just give it all a stir so that everything gets coated with that lemon and lime juice. A good pinch of salt in there as well. And then I can move on to my other ingredients that are going to go in. Chili, which I love, so I'm not going to de-seed it, I'm just going to slice it thinly. Put that in. 1 onion, finely diced. And you do want it to be really fine, so run your knife through a few times. And then a really fine dice. I'm probably only, to be honest, going to use 1/4 of an onion once we get halfway through that half. If my maths is still correct from my days of teaching, that's 1/4. Tomato, just going to top and tail, then run my knife in and de-seed. Then dice my tomato. What an awesome day we've got here on the East Coast. So about probably a 10-minute drive out of Swansea. Okay, so tomato in, coriander, roughly chopped. So you could do a similar sort of thing if you got some pork mince, and just cook some pork mince off in a fry pan like I did. Cook it until it's really, really brown, so you've got lots of colour on it. Then allow it to cool, then fold some pork mince through. It's really nice as well. All right, lobster. Take out our little pieces of lobster meat. run my knife through. Still want it to stay reasonably chunky. If you overcook lobster, it tends to go quite chalky, so you definitely don't want to overcook it. All right, that's pretty chunky. Put that in. And it means that you're stretching your lobster or your crayfish, quite a long way. So that tiny little, sort of the smallest tail I could get my hands on, because it is quite expensive, has got us a huge amount of our guac, our lobster guac. We're going to need another pinch of salt. And what I'll do, pop it back into that bowl our lobster came in. Spoon that in. You could even, if you wanted to, you could roast off the lobster tail itself, which I had inside. I just snipped and took the tail out of. You could roast that tail off, cook it, pick all the meat out. You can serve it back in the tail. I should have thought of that. That would have been quite cool. With my favourite corn chips at the moment are the blue corn chips. With some blue corn chips and life. Does not get any better than that. That is awesome. Oh, yum. That's so good. Just need my family here.